Okay, can y'all hear me now? I got a couple issues I want to address. The first one is Stunna Girl. Why is you letting people call you up? And why is you agreeing with people that you are? Don't do that. I don't give you if you was an it's ex-police, it's ex-gangers. You was an ex, okay? When you get your couple dollars, you don't get back and tell them you know. Now, Jonathan ended up with you because he called his mama. That's just how it worked. And Jonathan, if you called yourself being mean to or disappearing out of Stunna Girl life because you found out that she used to be a 3-0, that's what you get. That's what you get. When you whatever you call your mama, that's what you gonna end up with. If she ain't still selling no, she's an ex, okay? And I ain't never sold no before. But I done exchanged it for, you know what I mean? I done done an exchange here or there. Well, I ain't never sold none before. I don't know if that qualifies me ever, but whatever it is, I'm delivered. Okay? Now you need to get on here and tell these people that
You ever see a family argument so messy it makes reality TV look like a church picnic? Yeah, buckle up, because this right here. This is the kind of drama that makes the Kardashians look like they're arguing over gluten-free cupcakes. When Blueface's mom, Karlissa, grabbed that microphone and decided it was time to give advice, nobody expected a full-blown verbal hurricane. But that's exactly what happened. 1 minute she's offering motherly wisdom to Stunna Girl, and the next minute she's launching shade at ChriseanRock so sharp it could cut glass. This wasn't tea. This was a Category 5 gossip storm. And let's be clear, this didn't feel accidental. It felt strategic. Like somebody hit record at exactly the right moment and boom, the internet got fed. Karlissa didn't just speak. She emoted, she didn't whisper, she roared, and the wild part, every word sounded like it came with a receipt book attached. Advice for Stunna Girl, sure. But that advice came wrapped in a warning label stamped, "Don't be Chrisean." Oh, you thought this was calm family commentary? No. This was a public masterclass in shade throwing. You ever witness a conversation that feels calm, almost polite, and then realize it's actually a verbal hurricane about to level everything in its path? That's exactly what happened when Karlissa, Blueface's mom, decided it was time to give advice to Stunna Girl. At first glance, it looked like a motherly gesture. A few tips on keeping your life together while dating in the chaos of celebrity culture. But make no mistake, this wasn't counseling. This was strategic shade wrapped in silk. A subtle but nuclear verbal weapon delivered with the precision of a sniper. The internet, as it always does, caught every nuance, every inflection, and suddenly what could have been a quiet word of caution turned into an all-out trending event. The moment Karlissa's voice hit the air, people leaned in because she speaks with authority, calm authority, the kind that whispers, "I've seen it all and you're about to repeat history if you're not careful." And that's exactly the type of energy that sends the social media hive into overdrive. And don't even get me started on timing, because in this saga, timing is everything. Karlissa didn't just speak. She strategically stepped into a moment when attention was already hovering on Stunna Girl and, by extension, every past misstep that ChriseanRock has made. You could almost hear the collective intake of breath across TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, the platforms where gossip travels faster than light. It's like she released a verbal blueprint, a roadmap for what not to do, and it came with an invisible neon sign flashing Chrisean's name without uttering it once. Shade, the kind you can taste in your teeth, is more powerful when it's implied, and Karlissa mastered that art with surgical precision. Now, let's set the stage for why this moment carried seismic weight. The Blueface Chrisean saga is already more chaotic than a live-streamed roller coaster crash. Arrests, breakups, live-stream blowouts, reconciliations that last 5 minutes. It's a hurricane in constant motion. Add Stunna Girl into this orbit, and suddenly you've got a satellite spinning around a storm, catching all the wind and debris. Stunna has her own complicated history with Blueface, flirtations, collaborations, subtle competitive tension, and enough side-eye moments to power an entire Netflix reality series. And while the world is watching every awkward glance and cryptic comment, Karlissa decides to weigh in, not angrily, not loudly, not with a live stream meltdown. No, she chooses a calm, measured tone that makes her advice feel like wisdom but carries the unmistakable undertone of warning. And the moment she says, "Protect yourself, value your peace, don't let chaos define you," everyone knows. They know exactly who she's referencing without a single direct mention. That's Shade 101. Deliver the message so subtly that it burrows into perception, sticks in the brain, and makes people think she's talking about them. But let's break down why this advice hit harder than a free-for-all at a rap battle. Each sentence Karlissa delivered was layered. On the surface, it sounded like common sense. Stay grounded, maintain your brand, don't let emotions dictate your decisions. But between the lines, it was a warning, a public dissection of past mistakes, and a subtle lecture on what happens when you repeat history. Every word felt like a blueprint of consequences. Not just for Stunna Girl, but a mirror reflecting Chrisean, Rock's previous decisions, and let's be honest, the audience caught that mirror instantly. Social media has a long memory. Every viral clip, every headline, every moment of chaos gets resurrected in these situations, and Karlissa's calm delivery basically handed the internet the skeleton key to revisit the entire saga. And once the audience started connecting dots, the conversation evolved beyond advice. It became a debate, a spectacle, a trending story, and a meme factory all at once. The subtlety of her shade meant it wasn't immediately recognizable as drama to the untrained eye. But the true fans, the ones who followed every twist and turn, understood immediately. They felt the implied comparison, the invisible but undeniable warning, and the calculated positioning that Karlissa was claiming in the narrative. And the genius of it all, Stunna Girl's silence. While Karlissa delivered calm, cutting advice, Stunna chose not to respond publicly. That's a power move in itself. In a world where everybody feels the need to clap back immediately, silence becomes louder than words. It invites speculation. It allows audiences to interpret. It creates mystery. Was Stunna offended, amused, plotting her own counterplay? We don't know. And that uncertainty fuels engagement like nothing else. Social media thrives on unanswered questions, on tension, on anticipation. And by staying quiet, Stunna became part of the strategy. Her calm added weight to Karlissa's words and shifted public perception subtly in her favor. Of course, this didn't sit well with Chrisean's supporters. They immediately read between the lines and assumed the advice was another indirect attack, a continuation of a feud they claim Karlissa has carried publicly for years. They pulled receipts, past interviews, past live streams, moments where tension flared. And every single instance was used as evidence that this wasn't advice at all. It was a power play. And in the social media ecosystem, perception is reality. Once people started labeling Karlissa as the instigator and Stunna as the well-advised protege, the narrative became self-sustaining. Each post, each tweet, each meme reinforced the framing. Even those who didn't watch the full video could piece together the tension from headlines alone. That's how carefully planted words grow into full-blown reputational shifts. But here's where it gets even more complicated. While the drama unfolded online, the offline consequences were just as significant. Karlissa's measured delivery, her calm but cutting tone positioned her as the matriarch, the voice of reason, the one who saw the movie before the credits rolled. She emerged from this moment looking like a strategist rather than a participant in chaos. And in celebrity culture, that kind of positioning is invaluable. Meanwhile, Stunna Girl's silence aged like fine wine, transforming uncertainty into perceived maturity. And Chrisean, her narrative began to fracture, polarizing public opinion. Some continued to defend her fiercely, emphasizing growth and redemption, while others quietly absorbed Karlissa's warnings as validation of their critiques. This is the delicate dance of celebrity drama. Every word, every silence, every subtle gesture shifts public perception in ways that aren't immediately obvious, but are incredibly powerful over time. By the time the first 24 hours had passed, Memes had exploded across every platform. Viral edits compared Karlissa to chess grandmasters plotting 10 moves ahead, Disney villains explaining their evil plans calmly while the kingdom burns, and professors grading a test they know nobody could pass. TikTok soundbites began looping her calm phrases, and Instagram Reels recontextualized her advice into dramatic monologues. Suddenly, what could have been a short-lived commentary became a multi-platform spectacle. And that's the brilliance of subtle shade delivered with intention. It lasts longer than drama that screams it echoes, and people keep replaying it, analyzing it, and debating it. And don't forget the silent-factored Blueface. While the women in this triangle actively shaped public perception, his continued quiet lingered like a storm cloud. It was suspenseful, mysterious, and strategically advantageous. Audiences speculated endlessly. Was he privately aligned with his mother? Was he taking notes? Or was he simply watching as the narrative spun itself into a frenzy, knowing that the drama would inevitably return to him? In celebrity triangles, the silent middle figure often wields more power than the loudest participant, and the internet loves that tension almost as much as it loves the drama itself. By the end of this first chapter in the saga, one thing was crystal clear. Karlissa had strategically repositioned herself as the voice of foresight, Stunna Girl had established quiet credibility, and Chrisean's public image was under renewed scrutiny. But the narrative was far from over. Advice given in subtle shade has a way of circling back, resurfacing at moments when history threatens to repeat itself. And in this universe, nothing stays buried for long. This was only the beginning, the opening act in a drama that refuses to die quietly, a calm yet combustible prelude to the storms yet to come. The echoes of this advice, this calculated calm, would resonate through every future headline, every meme, every tweet, and every live stream that dared to revisit the tangled web of relationships, reputation, and relentless public scrutiny. The aftermath of Karlissa's words was like tossing a lit match into a gasoline-saturated room, and the internet exploded almost immediately. Clips of her calm but pointed advice began circulating across TikTok, Twitter, and Instagram like wildfire. Reaction channels were dissecting every syllable, every pause, every glance, interpreting subtle inflections as deliberate digs at ChriseanRock. Meme pages got creative instantly, turning her expressions into reaction templates, chessboard metaphors, Disney villain comparisons, and even professor grading failed exams jokes. One viral clip had orchestral music added to her calm statements, making her sound like the mastermind of a cinematic villain origin story. The engagement wasn't just high, it was astronomical. People weren't just watching, they were analyzing, dissecting, and speculating. And the more they analyzed, the more the narrative evolved. Karlissa's words, while ostensibly advice for Stunna Girl, had become a trigger for 1,000 theories about motive, loyalty, and past mistakes. Every calm word was being read like a covert manifesto, and the internet ate it up. Fans dissected the implications of each phrase, connecting them to prior viral moments in Chrisean's past, creating an endless loop of remember when threads that kept momentum alive. Every reaction, every reply, every share added fuel to the fire. Stunna Girl's silence during all this only amplified the effect. While Karlissa spoke, Stunna remained composed, allowing the shade to land, letting it echo, and letting audiences fill in the blanks themselves. Social media thrives on gaps, on pauses, on things left unsaid. Every unanswered question creates a vacuum that fans rush to fill. Was Stunna offended? Was she amused? Was she plotting a response? Nobody knew for sure. And that uncertainty kept everyone glued to timelines, comment sections, and reaction videos. It's the classic quiet power strategy, the one that celebrities, influencers, and public figures use instinctively without even realizing it. Silence, in this context, isn't neutrality, it's suspense. A deliberate pause that invites speculation and keeps the audience engaged. And in this situation, The tension created by Stunna Girl's lack of immediate response only strengthened the perception that Karlissa's advice carried weight and that history was being referenced in Ray. Meanwhile, Chrisean supporters were mobilizing rapidly. They reposted old clips, screenshots, and interviews to prove that Karlissa had a habit of undermining her publicly, framing every subtle critique as part of a long-standing pattern. "This isn't advice," one viral post read. "This is shade disguised as concern." Another claimed, "Karlissa always has to be the narrator," painting Chrisean as a cautionary tale. The debate became multi-layered almost instantly. Was Karlissa genuinely advising Stunna Girl or strategically reasserting control over the narrative? Fans argued endlessly, dissecting every gesture, every inflection, every word. And because social media thrives on controversy, the debate continued to escalate. Becoming a trending topic within hours, headlines began framing the moment as a chess move, with Karlissa quietly repositioning herself while the rest of the triangle scrambled to keep pace. The analysis didn't stop at fans, influencers, and commentators jumped in, offering hot takes that ranged from "Karlissa is finally asserting herself as the matriarch to this is her subtle way of keeping Chrisean in check without starting a public fight." Even neutral observers were drawn in, captivated by the drama unfolding with surgical precision. Pop culture comparisons flourished as the conversation intensified. Memes likened Karlissa to a Disney villain explaining her plan calmly while the kingdom burns, a chess grandmaster who always sees 5 moves ahead, and a reality TV matriarch manipulating the reunion episode with composure. The humor was sharp, but the subtext was serious. Everyone recognized that her calm tone was a strategic weapon. In celebrity culture, subtlety often carries more power than shouting. And Karlissa wielded hers like a scalpel. The more composed she appeared, the louder her influence resonated across social media. Meanwhile, Stunna Girl's quiet presence began earning her subtle respect. People began to interpret her lack of reaction as maturity and strategy, positioning her as someone who can absorb lessons and navigate chaos without getting entangled in it. The contrast between Karlissa's measured words and Stunna's deliberate silence created a perfect storm of speculation and engagement, feeding trending hashtags, viral clips, and meme factories simultaneously. And the most fascinating factor in all this, Blueface's silence. While both women shaped public perception with words and reactions, he remained an enigmatic presence, hovering quietly in the background like the calm before a storm. Silence from him wasn't neutrality, it was suspense. Fans and commentators speculated endlessly. Was he privately aligned with his mother? Was he staying neutral to avoid escalating tension? Or was he simply observing the chaos, knowing that public perception would ultimately shape the narrative without his direct input? In celebrity drama, silence often carries more weight than words, and the audience responded accordingly, analyzing his absence almost as much as the statements being made. Every post, clip, and reaction was now filtered through the lens of what will Blueface do? His quiet became a narrative device in itself, increasing tension and anticipation across social media. As the hours turned into days, subtle shifts in public perception began to take hold. Karlissa was framed as a voice of reason, a matriarch who had the foresight to advise without overtly attacking. Stunna Girl's poised silence elevated her credibility, giving the impression of composure and strategy. Chrisean's image became increasingly polarized, while her loyal supporters argued in her favor, emphasizing growth and redemption. Critics used Karlissa's advice as proof of recurring patterns, framing her as a cautionary tale. Public opinion, once neutral, began aligning along new lines. The dynamics of the triangle shifted, all sparked by a few carefully chosen words. And in the world of social media, that kind of shift is powerful because it redefines who is perceived as mature, strategic, or in control, and who is seen as reckless, reactive, or chaotic. The drama didn't remain confined to commentary and memes. Secondary ripple effects emerged. Bloggers and influencers repurposed Karlissa's calm phrases into motivational posts, reaction reels, and speculative analysis. TikTok editors looped her tone to create cinematic monologues, transforming advice into content that could be replayed and reinterpreted endlessly. Every post, every share, every reaction kept the story alive, proving that strategic commentary doesn't just trend, it persists. Meanwhile, the historical weight of past viral moments resurfaced. Chrisean's old live streams, social media, meltdowns, and previous drama clips were pulled out of archives to serve as context for the lesson implied in Karlissa's words. The past wasn't just remembered, it was reframed to fit the new narrative. By the end of this escalation, one undeniable truth emerged. A few minutes of calm advice had triggered waves of engagement, speculation, and reputational shifts. What began as subtle guidance for Stunna Girl became a public reckoning for everyone involved. Karlissa's position as a voice of foresight was solidified. Stunna's credibility quietly grew, and Chrisean's public perception faced renewed scrutiny, polarizing audiences and reigniting long-buried debates. The triangle had shifted, the chessboard rearranged, and the tension remained high. And yet, the story wasn't over. The calmness of Karlissa's delivery and the silence of Stunna Girl and Blueface had only amplified the suspense, leaving audiences waiting for the next move, the next statement, the next viral moment that could tip the scales once again, even as the digital dust began to settle. Subtle indications hinted that the triangle was far from dormant. The narrative planted by Karlissa's advice, combined with the carefully curated silences and public reactions, ensured that the story remained alive, trending, and ripe for the next chapter. Every screenshot, every clip, every reaction was preserved, primed for future resurfacing. And that's the genius of strategic celebrity drama. What seems like a small, measured moment can ripple outward, influence perception, and create a saga that lasts far longer than anyone initially anticipates. The internet, with its insatiable appetite for narrative, had caught fire, and nobody could predict exactly when or how the next spark would ignite. But one thing was certain: the triangle of Karlissa, Stunna Girl, and ChriseanRock had irrevocably shifted, and the world was watching, waiting, and analyzing every silent pause and every subtle word with feverish attention. By the time the smoke of Karlissa's advice had settled into the timelines, the real aftermath began to reveal itself. And it was far messier than anyone expected. Because in celebrity drama, it's never just about words, it's about perception, history, and timing, all colliding in one chaotic symphony. Karlissa emerged looking calm, collected, and almost terrifyingly strategic. The kind of figure who seems like she could predict the next viral meltdown before anyone else even logs in. Her advice had positioned her as the matriarch, the voice of foresight, the one who saw patterns where everyone else saw chaos. And that perception was immediately absorbed by the audience. Fans and casual observers alike began to frame her as someone who wasn't merely commenting, she was subtly controlling the narrative, planting the seeds that would dictate how every future interaction between Stunna and Chrisean would be read. In the world of social media, positioning yourself as the calm arbiter can be as powerful as screaming at the top of your lungs, and Karlissa executed it flawlessly. Stunna Girl, meanwhile, benefited in ways that might not have been immediately obvious. Her decision to remain silent during the initial storm allowed her to absorb the chaos without being defined by it. Social media users began interpreting her composure as maturity, restraint, and a strategic awareness of public perception that set her apart from anyone else in the drama triangle. By not immediately responding, she avoided becoming reactive. Content, and that subtle power move gave her a quiet but undeniable credibility. The internet, ever obsessed with patterns and comparisons, couldn't help but notice the contrast between Stunna's calm demeanor and Chrisean's more visibly reactive moments in the past. Suddenly, Stunna's silence became an asset, a demonstration that restraint and patience could command as much attention and as much respect as bold commentary. ChriseanRock's supporters, predictably, were fired up. The subtle shades implied by Karlissa's words made her public image a topic of debate all over social media. some framed Karlissa as an instigator, painting her advice as a veiled attack meant to humiliate or undermine. Others argued that Stunna girl had been elevated unfairly at Chrisean's expense. Old clips resurfaced, interviews were revisited, and every misstep in past months became a piece of evidence for a narrative that was already forming, that Chrisean's mistakes were now a lesson being repeated in real time. The public, already addicted to the drama, lapped it up in a matter of hours. Subtle advice had transformed into a full-blown public reckoning, and Chrisean, whether deservedly or not, found herself at the center of renewed scrutiny. Meanwhile, Blueface's continued silence only added fuel to the fire. Every pause, every lack of response became a talking point. Speculation ran rampant. Was he quietly agreeing with Karlissa? Was he staying neutral to avoid worsening the chaos? Or was he simply enjoying the spectacle as the world debated the triangle without him needing to speak? In celebrity dynamics like this, the silent figure often holds invisible power. Audience attention naturally gravitates toward them, assigning intentions, motives, and strategies where none are explicit. Every meme, every tweet, every viral clip analyzed his absence, turning it into suspense that kept engagement high for days. And when public figures choose silence strategically, they often dominate narrative control without saying a single word. The memes, reaction videos, and social media commentary weren't just commentary, they became a cultural lens through which audiences viewed every action moving forward. Karlissa's calm, strategic tone was compared to chess grandmasters, Disney villains explaining their plans while the world burns, and reality TV matriarchs orchestrating drama with surgical precision. Stunna's silence was framed as composed strategy, a demonstration that not every comment needs to escalate into chaos. Chrisean, caught in the crossfire of implication and historical perception, became a polarizing figure. Her public persona simultaneously defended by loyal fans and critiqued by those who interpreted Karlissa's advice as validation of a recurring pattern. The triangle's dynamics had shifted, creating new hierarchies of perceived control and public credibility. As the digital dust began to settle, subtle undercurrents began emerging in the narrative. Karlissa's advice, while framed as caution, had reignited discussions about accountability, relationships, and personal branding. The conversation evolved beyond memes into thoughtful threads analyzing cycles of behavior, emotional stability, and the consequences of public exposure. Even casual observers began debating who was winning the perception war, with Karlissa positioned as strategic, Stunna as composed, and Chrisean's public image fluctuating depending on which side of the debate viewers subscribed to. It was proof that even calm, measured statements can have explosive ripple effects when they intersect with history, perception, and the insatiable appetite of social media. The longer this narrative persisted, the clearer the implications became. Advice delivered in subtle shade is never temporary. It lingers. It reframes past events and colors future interpretation. Screenshots, clips, and viral edits ensured that every word Karlissa spoke would reappear in future controversies, analyzed as precedent for what is acceptable, what is strategic, and what defines character in the public eye. Every meme, every hot take, every edited video contributed to an ecosystem that immortalized the advice while amplifying its consequences. The internet, in essence, had taken Karlissa's words and created a living archive of narrative influence that would ripple into future interactions between Stunna and Chrisean. And then there's the human factor, Karlissa's calm authority, Stunna's poised silence, Chrisean's defensive posture. All these elements didn't just entertain, they influenced behavior. The triangle now existed in a heightened state of awareness. Every public post, every interview, every social media activity would now be measured against this moment. Future decisions would be contextualized within the memory of this advice. Patterns would be scrutinized, moves would be anticipated, and in this ecosystem, perception often outweighs reality. Who appears strategic, composed, or in control becomes more important than what actually happens behind closed doors, even days later. The drama remained trending, fueled by secondary reactions and reinterpretations. Every quiet gesture, every cryptic story, every public appearance was now read through the lens of Karlissa's advice. Social media users and influencers repurposed her statements into motivational commentary, reaction memes, and analysis reels. Ensuring the moment's longevity, the triangle's dynamics had shifted irrevocably. Karlissa had reclaimed influence over narrative perception, Stunna had demonstrated silent credibility, and Chrisean faced renewed scrutiny that polarized public opinion. Blueface's quiet continued to add suspense, creating a digital tension that guaranteed audiences would remain engaged for weeks to come. The most fascinating aspect of this entire episode is the subtlety. No one shouted, no one threw dramatic livestream tantrums. And yet the consequences were massive. Words delivered with calm precision, strategic silence, and historical awareness created ripples that influenced perception, social media engagement, and reputation in ways that loud chaos often cannot. The narrative had shifted without an explosion. The triangle had rotated, hierarchies had been established, and audiences were now eagerly anticipating the next move. And in celebrity culture, anticipation is currency. By the end of this sequence, one fact was undeniable: Karlissa, Stunna, and Chrisean were no longer just participants in a social media saga. They had become archetypes, symbols in an ongoing drama where calm, composure, strategic silence, and subtle implication define influence more than any viral meltdown ever could. Every subsequent post, comment, or reaction would be measured against the precedent set here. Karlissa's advice, Stunna's restraint, and Chrisean's perception had created a living, breathing story that social media would continue to dissect endlessly. The drama triangle had entered a new era, and the world was watching every calculated move. And while the immediate storm had subsided, the underlying tension remained. Ready to flare the next hint of conflict, the next viral clip, or the next cryptic social media post, the triangle wasn't over. The chessboard had been rearranged. And in a landscape driven by perception, subtlety, and the endless hunger of the internet for narrative, every character had been repositioned strategically. Calm, silence, and implication had won over shouting and chaos, proving once again that in modern celebrity drama, influence is often invisible, but its effects are seismic. The story had shifted from advice to aftermath, from commentary to consequence, and from quiet moments to full-blown narrative power plays, leaving audiences clamoring, analyzing, and waiting for the next explosive chapter in a saga that refuses to die quietly. Alright, let's pause the drama for just a second, just long enough for you to do your civic duty in the world of chaos. Smash that like button like it owes you money. Because let's be honest, if Karlissa's advice can land this hard without raising her voice, your click is basically part of the cultural shift. Hit comment and tell us what you think. Are you Team Karlissa, Team Stunna, or still defending Chrisean like a loyal soldier in a viral battlefield? Your opinions are the gasoline on this fire, and we need them swirling in the feed. And don't even think about lurking, subscribing, and turn on the notifications. Because if you blink, you'll miss the next explosion in this triangle. And trust me, these scandals drop faster than a leaked mixtape. We're talking about drama that makes reality TV look like a calm meditation retreat. Every live stream, every cryptic post, every subtle glance is a ticking time bomb in this saga. And you want to be front row when it blows up. This channel doesn't just cover the chaos, we deliver the popcorn, the hot takes, and the secret receipts before anyone else even knows the tea exists. From Karlissa's strategic shade to Stunna Girl's point silence to Chrisean's polarizing moves, we dissect it all, exaggerate it, and serve it in full cinematic flavor. So join the front lines of internet speculation. Comment your hot take, share the clips with your friends, and watch the triangle evolve in real time. Remember, the drama never sleeps, the internet never forgets. And here We don't just report the scandal, we live it with you. Hit like, drop a comment, subscribe, and buckle up, because the next move in this saga will be wilder, messier, and more explosive than anything you've seen so far. This is Celeb SYNC, where the chaos is constant, the shade is calculated, and the popcorn never runs out.